This is Philadelphia Eagles Now. I'm Chase Senior. Hope all of you out there are having a fantastic week. We have a great show here for you today. A look at some marquee NFL free agents who fit the profile of what the Eagles need, but also some draft prospects who could get drafted by Philadelphia based upon some of the players they might lose from their current roster in NFL free agency, or some of the players that they might target to bolster the depth on this team. So Mel Kiper, who is ESPN's NFL draft expert, put together a list of some of his top prospects at every position. And we're going to take a look at some of these positions based on what I think the Eagles might need going into 2023. And we begin with Mel Kiper Jr.'s top offensive tackle prospects in this upcoming draft class in April. Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern. Paris Johnson is a guy who a lot of people like even better than Skoronski out of Ohio State. Broderick Jones out of Georgia is a really good player and an absolute mauler. And then Blake Freeland out of BYU and Matthew Bergeron out of Syracuse. And this is the thought with targeting offensive tackle in the draft. And by the way, the Eagles do have that number 10 overall pick thanks to the New Orleans Saints. Lane Johnson has said that he wants to play for a couple of more years. Now is a good time to start to think forward for his future replacement, because that is a position where if you don't have a good right tackle or a left tackle, it can completely derail any type of success that you want to have. And this Eagles team is stockpiled with some really good players. The Super Bowl window going to be alive and well and open for a little while. And Lane Johnson, he also has these injuries starting to stack up a little bit. Still a premier player, as this year, prior to that injury that he suffered against the Cowboys to his core, 972 snaps, 0 sacks allowed, and 0 hits. But good business is always plan ahead. Howie Roseman likes to plan ahead as well. It's time to start looking ahead toward a Lane Johnson replacement. If not this year, then definitely next year. To offensive guard now, and I'll explain why I have some offensive guards on today's show. Osiris Torrence out of Florida, Mel Kiper Jr.'s number 1 offensive guard, followed by Joshua Gray out of Oregon State. Zak Zinter out of Michigan is an excellent player. Jarrett Patterson from Notre Dame, as the Fighting Irish continue to develop really good NFL pro-caliber offensive linemen. And then Troy Fautanu out of Washington, rounding out his top 5. Isaac Seumalo is going to be a free agent. And every single member of this Eagles offensive line either made it to the Pro Bowl or is a Pro Bowl alternate. And Isaac Seumalo could make a lot of money in NFL free agency. Jeff McClain put together an article recently that called him the unsung hero of this Eagles offensive line. Good player, but if he costs too much, then the Eagles could look to target an offensive guard to replace him for a fraction of the price. Top offensive guard free agents. I told you we were going to be talking free agents here as well. Ben Powers out of Baltimore, and this is from Pro Football Focus. Isaac Seumalo, the second-ranked offensive guard according to PFF. Dalton Risner from the Denver Broncos, and Evan Brown of the Detroit Lions. So because we're talking about the Eagles offseason and some of the needs that they have as we propel forward, what is the Eagles' single biggest need? Let me know down in the comment section. To defensive end now. Offensive tackle, defensive end. 2 positions that Howie Roseman and the Eagles organization have always tried to target and stockpile. Some really good defensive ends in this draft, as well as some outside linebackers as well, who kind of play a Hassan Reddick type of style. It all leads off with Myles Murphy out of Clemson, Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech, Lukas Van Ness out of Iowa, a very good program in developing defensive lineman, Jarrett out of Florida State, and Keon White out of Georgia. As far as the top edge free agents, according to Pro Football Focus, I think that Brandon Graham should be on here, and he's not. Justin Houston is ahead of him. That's wild. Brandon Graham is having a career year right now. Marcus Davenport, number 1 on this list. Jadeveon Clowney can kind of play inside, outside on a bargain type of deal. I'd like for the Philadelphia Eagles to sign him. Some cultural issues with him in the locker room, but I still believe he could play and play well on a good defensive line. Melvin Ingram III out of the Miami Dolphins. He's been getting it done for a long time, as well as Justin Houston. And one of the best organizations at developing defensive linemen and edges are the San Francisco 49ers. Charles Omenihu, who looked to be lost in his NFL career with the Houston Texans. Niners trade for him at the NFL trade deadline last year. He's been money playing alongside Nick Bosa. And the thought with edges is that the Eagles always prioritize edge rusher. Brandon Graham is going to be a free agent, and the Birds are a little bit thin at defensive end. I understand you have Hassan Reddick, but he's more of a hybrid. Josh Webb is having a career year. After that, though, you re-signed Derek Barnett, coming off that torn ACL, didn't do anything this year. And other than that, who are the edge rushers who could step in next year if a couple of injuries were to happen? You get that young stud edge rusher at number 10. He can be a part of this organization for the next decade. This is a reminder to subscribe. We do it all here on Eagles Now, and I believe our coverage is top-notch, informative, entertaining, consistent. When it comes to the draft, free agency, in-season coverage, game recaps, game previews, news, rumors, whatever, we have you covered. 40,000 subscribers incoming. Help us get there. We appreciate it. Mel Kiper's top defensive tackles. A name here who a lot of mock drafts have linked the Eagles to is Brian Breesy out of Clemson. This dude is a monster who is really, really powerful right from the jump off the line of scrimmage. Just has that really good technique where he can punch and get past opposing offensive linemen. A lot of people like Jalen Carter, another player linked to Philadelphia. Saiki Ika out of Baylor. Tuli Tuipulotu from USC. And Mazi Smith rounding out Mel Kiper's top defensive tackles as far as the draft prospects. For Pro Football Focus, another Eagle here in the top 5 of their list of top positional players here. Javon Hargrave, he's going to be the top defensive tackle. So if the Eagles believe that Jordan Davis can be more than a 2-down player, and they like him, and they like Carter out of Georgia, maybe those are your 2 defensive tackles moving forward as you kind of wipe the slate clean there to a certain degree. And you have 2 young players in Carter, Hargrave, former teammates at Georgia. You let Hargrave walk for big money, as well as Fletcher Cox. Deron Payne, Dalvin Tomlinson, Jermont Jones, and Sheldon Rankins, also very good defensive tackles set to hit free agency. When you look at the Super Bowl odds here, if you want to bet on the Eagles to win the Super Bowl and you think they're getting disrespected with these odds here at 5-1, which means you put down $1, and if they win, you get $5 back. You can do the math from there. I failed elementary algebra at Temple. I ain't going to do it for you. But the Super Bowl odds here, Chiefs plus 325, Bills 4-1 odds, San Francisco 49ers plus 475. If you want to bet on the Eagles to win the NFC Super Bowl odds, you want to bet on the NFL playoffs this upcoming weekend, make sure you do so with our sportsbook partner, chatsports.com/EaglesBet, promo code Eagles125. Linebacker now, TJ Edwards, free agent. Kaiser White, potential free agent. And that could be a position that the Eagles always had really looked past. Not anymore because of the development from a guy like TJ Edwards, the signing of Kaiser White, and this drafting of Nakobe Dean. Some good players here. Producer Trissie Trace's favorite. He went to Arkansas. Drew Sanders, Mel Kiper's top linebacker prospect. Jack Campbell out of Iowa. Trenton Simpson, Clemson. Noah Sewell out of Oregon. And Dorian Williams out of the surprise Tulane Green Wave. Did I say that right? Tulane Green Wave, Dorian Williams with that upset over USC. What a bowl game that was in the Cotton Bowl. PFF's top free agent linebackers. Look here, it's TJ Edwards, who is the second highest graded linebacker according to Pro Football Focus. Levante Smith, a good player. Roquan Smith, you can actually axe him off this list, but I wanted to talk about him because news recent from Baltimore. He re-signed a contract with the Ravens after that trade from the Bears where he's making about $20 million moving forward. David Long out of Tennessee and Tremaine Edwards out of Buffalo, also very, very good players. So which free agent do the Eagles need to sign? I'm looking at C.J. Gardner-Johnson as my number 1 Eagles free agent priority. Really like his game. Want to see him back in the midnight green. Now these are hybrid edge rushers, but also some guys who can drop back in coverage. On last week's show, we talked about Isaiah Foskey as a guy who the Eagles could draft out of Notre Dame with their second first-round pick. Very good edge rusher with consistent sack production in 3 years of consistent playing time at Notre Dame. Nolan Smith, Mike Morris, Andre Carter, also in there. Andre Carter out of Army. Very rare that you see a draft prospect this high out of Army because usually they have to do their service time. And then Will Anderson out of Alabama. I think he's going to get taken prior to the Eagles drafting at 10, but if he's still on the board, Howie, go get him. Top cornerback draft prospects. The thought here is that James Bradberry is going to hit free agency. He could realistically make between $12 and $15 million per year. So if you let him go and you get a really good cornerback for cheap, that's just smart fiscal planning on the behalf of Philadelphia. I love Joey Porter Jr. I'm surprised that Mel Kiper Jr. has Keely Ringo this low because I like his physicality and his 4.3 speed. Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon, Deontay Banks out of Maryland, and Devon Witherspoon out of Illinois. Other cornerback prospects for Mel Kiper Jr. There will be some good cornerback free agents. And in today's NFL, where a lot of offenses like to chuck the ball around the yard, a guy like James Bradberry is going to get paid, and there are going to be teams after him. And it's very thin in terms of top-tier cornerback free agents because Patrick Peterson is in his mid-30s here, and he's number 4 on this list. So teams will pay big money if they have a cornerback need for James Bradberry. That's why I'm thinking that the Eagles could target cornerback with pick number 10 as well. And then to safeties. So at that safety spot, if you lose C.J. Gardner-Johnson, if you don't like what Marcus Epps did, if you want to bring in a developmental project at safety, Brian Branch, Antonio Johnson, Jair Brown, Christopher Smith, and Jordan Battle could fit that mold. And then there are also some free agent safety targets. I know some Eagles fans really like Jesse Bates. I like him too, but I'd rather pay a safety on the cheap as compared to paying a safety big money. But with C.J. Gardner-Johnson, I think he's going to be in that middle tier. Jordan Poyer, awesome player. C.D. Deuce coming in at number 3. Marcus Epps at number 4. So both of the Eagles safeties here are set to be a free agents. That's problematic, and that's why the Birds could target safety Von Bell out of Cincinnati playing opposite of Jesse Bates, finishing off that list. Now, those are some Eagles draft prospects and some Eagles free agency targets. So we talked about on today's show. It was awesome. I hope you found it to be informative. If you did and you're subscribed and you're still watching, that means that you're a real one. So type real one right now.